breaking down every game, every day in Major League Baseball. This is the Baseball Betting Show. Here is your host, Greg Peterson.
Wonderful hello! Welcome to Lovely Las Vegas for the Baseball Betting Show with myself, Greg Peterson, now part of the VSiN Family Podcast. We've got a great podcast for you guys. In segment number 2, we're going to be joined by Jon Jansen. He does amazing work over at Fox Sports Philadelphia, The Gambler, taking a look at all things baseball. I know that he's been doing a great job day in and day out taking a look at this great game that we all know and love, and we're going to be diving into quite a few things. The struggles of the Philadelphia Phillies to begin the season, get a little bit of a preview of the game that they're going to be having with the Miami Marlins on Monday. We're going to take a look at some of the surprise teams like the Tampa Bay Rays, the Milwaukee Brewers, teams to the positive, teams to the negative, and talk about some of the games that just really stand out to them for this Monday. And then in the final segment, going to give you guys picks and analysis on every game on the betting board for this MLB Monday as we touch them all. If you have a question, comment, segment idea, what have you for this podcast, you do have one of two ways we offer those in. First one is my Twitter timeline at GNN_D1. Keep in mind, letters CM. The name does not matter. As per usual, please do send these into the timeline. The other way is find an Apple Podcast review. If you rate this podcast 5 stars, it is very much appreciated. From there, you're able to fire in whatever you'd like to hear on this podcast via that 5-star review. Got one question today asking if we should be taking a look at run lines instead of money lines just all across in baseball, and I think that it's very much situation by situation. You don't want to be taking the money line on every single game, but I also don't think that you want to be taking the run line on every single game as well, because if you're looking at like a plus 120 underdog, something of that nature, you're going to be paying way north of minus 150 on the juice on that run line, and sometimes that can make sense, but you would honestly probably be better off taking a look at something just completely alternative to that, because you're getting a plus number if you like that underdog. If you're getting a run and a half now, instead taking a look at that run line, you're paying a very big premium, and if you think that they should win it outright, you might as well just take the money line. Wow, I usually play run lines is when you get these big, giant, chalky favorites, being able to lay a run and a half, or sometimes if you're getting a run and a half when it comes to some of these big, chalky favorites, like the Oakland A's, you might be able to find some plus prices getting a run and a half with them. That's something that'll appeal to me a little bit more, especially if it's a home team that's north of a $2 underdog, because they do get those last ups. But I would say it should be situation by situation. I don't encourage blind betting everything. I don't encourage having just a theory where you must bet everything across the board. I would say have a good balance, actually gauge a situation individually. Just don't bet all money lines. Don't just bet all run lines. Just gauge the actual game itself. That's the best advice that I can give you. And let's take a look at everything that we've been seeing in Major League Baseball thus far this season trend-wise, and take a look back at Sunday, try to find some trends, and try to get to know these teams a little bit better.
Games from yesterday is Greg buzzing about. Here is the rowdy recap.
The Toronto Blue Jays were able to take down the LA Angels in one of the wildest games that we have seen all season long. 12-11 was the final in 10 innings, as the LA Angels, they got up by a count of 6-0 going into the top of the 6th inning, and then they gave up 10 runs in the 6th and the 7th inning. They rallied for 3 runs in the 9th, and then they lose in the 10th. This game was just all over the place, as with the Toronto Blue Jays, Yusei Kikuchi just got shelled. He gave up 6 runs over the course of 4 1/3 innings, with the Angels being able to crank out a trio of homers. Hunter Renfroe, second home run of the season. Shohei Ohtani, his third home run of the campaign. And Logan O'Hoppe, his third home run of the season. Brandon Drury would then go deep off of Eric Swanson for his first home run of the season, as Swanson gives up that home run over the course of an inning. Adam Simber, Yimi Garcia both supply a scoreless inning as that Pop had things to pop at 2/3 of an inning scoreless, as Jordan Romano, he got the win while giving up 3 runs over the course of an inning, as Trevor Richards gives up an unearned run in the 10th before Tim Mesa gets the save. And for the Toronto Blue Jays, Kevin Kiermaier with a double and a triple. He came up with 5 RBI, and Matt Chapman gets his second home run of the season off of Reed Detmers, as Detmers gets tagged for 5 of those runs, 4 of which were earned, but Ryan Tepera now has a 15.43 ERA, giving up 4 runs in a third of an inning. Andrew Wantz, a unearned run given up in the bullpen in his inning of work. Aaron Loop, pair of outs out of the bullpen, as Jaime Barria stemmed the tide with 2 scoreless innings, but then Carlos Estevez gives up 2 runs, 1 of which was earned in the 10th inning. So the Angels, they fall to the Toronto Blue Jays. You saw an 11 spot put up by the Arizona Diamondbacks as they take down the LA Dodgers by a count of 11-6, as Michael Grove, he just grooved them in the zone and gave up 9 runs over the course of 3 1/3 innings. For the Arizona Diamondbacks, they didn't have any home runs in this game, but they went 8 of 19 with men in scoring position. Ryan Nelson, a relatively solid start, giving up 3 runs in 6 innings. He did have 3 runs in 2 innings, giving up a Peter Solomon out of the Arizona bullpen as you had a scoreless inning turned by Carlos Vargas. But from there, the LA Dodgers actually did an okay job with their bullpen as you had 2 scoreless innings out of Phil Bickford, Shelby Miller, 1 2/3 innings scoreless, but Caleb Ferguson did give up 2 runs in an inning, and the Dodgers are 5-5. This has to be the latest that they've been 500 in a season in like an eon. The Cincinnati Reds, they were onto a win over the Philadelphia Phillies. We'll talk more about this with Jon Jansen over at Fox Sports Philadelphia, the Gambler, in the next segment, but 6-4. The Reds were able to get it done as Connor Overton, not the start he was looking for, giving up 4 runs in 4 innings, including a home run to Alec Boehm, second home run in the campaign. But from there, Fernando Cruz was able to supply 2 scoreless innings along with Kevin Harrigan before Ian Gabo comes in for a scoreless inning. For the Reds, no home runs in this game. They go 3 of 10 with men in scoring position, and they were able to do it all on 6 hits as Taijuan Walker gives up 2 runs in 4 2/3 innings, but was knocked out early because of 5 walks, and the Phillies as a whole walked 9. Craig Kimbrell, Sir Anthony Dominguez, they were not trustworthy out there in the bullpen. Kimbrell gives up a run in an inning. Dominguez, 3 runs in his inning of work. Jose Alvarado, Gregory Soto both supplied a scoreless inning, and Connor Brogdon and out of the bullpen, but not what the Philadelphia Phillies were looking for on Easter Sunday. By the way, happy Easter to all that celebrate, and for the Tampa Bay Rays, they continue to be undefeated. 9-0, the series have come against Washington Nationals, Oakland A's, and Detroit Tigers, but still, 9-0 is 9-0, and it was 11-0, which they won this game as James Caprillion got shelled, giving up 7 runs in 4 2/3 innings, including a trio of homers, as Harold Ramirez goes deep for his 3rd home run of the season. Wander Franco, his 4th home run season. Brandon Lau gets loud for his 2nd as Adrian Martinez had to come in long relief, 2 1/3 innings, giving up 2 runs. Trevor May gives up 2 runs in 2/3 of an inning, and Danny Jimenez in out of the bullpen. But for the Oakland A's, just 1 in this game. Drew Rasmussen was amazing. 8 punch-outs, 1 hit allowed in 7 scoreless innings. No walks as well. Ryan Thompson, Jason Adam, they supply a scoreless 8th and 9th inning. For the Boston Red Sox, offense has been their forte, but on this day, they got it done with a pitching 4-1. They take down the Detroit Tigers as Cutter Crawford gives up just 1 run in 5 innings, punches out 6, and then Josh Winkowski, Chris Martin, Kenley Jansen, John Schreiber all provide a scoreless inning. Tristan Casas provides his 2nd home run in the campaign to be able to give Boston a little bit of insurance as Matthew Boyd, 4 2/3 innings, only gives up 2 runs, but knocked out early because of 4 walks. Jason Foley, 1 1/3 innings scoreless. Trey Wingenter, a scoreless inning, and then Alex Lang gives up a run in an inning, and Jason Shreve allowed that home run to Mr. Casas. Our DK Nation pick, if you took the closing number of 7.5, you got there. I came on this podcast, I gave out 8 in the write-up, it was 8, so this counts as a push. We are not going to give ourselves a closing line win, pat in the back, or anything like that. I always go with the number that is published, so that means that these are still 7-2-1 to begin the season, so write-ups still doing quite well, and hopefully you were able to make that 8-2, but 5-3, the Yankees are able to get the job done over the Baltimore Orioles as the Yankees got a pair of home runs from Aaron Judge, 3rd and 4th home runs of the campaign, and Franchi Cordero was able to get home run number 2 of the season. For Cordero and Judge, they both took Tyler Wells deep, and Wells did not pitch. Wells giving up 4 runs over the course of 6 innings, including 2 home runs. Other home run that Aaron Judge hit off of Logan Gillespie, giving up that home run in 1 1/3 innings. Danny Columbi, 2/3 of an inning scoreless. Mike Baumann, a scoreless inning. And then Adley Rushman was able to go deep off of Jimmy Cordero, his 2nd home run season as Nestor Cortez, relatively solid start, giving up 2 runs in 5 1/3 innings. Cordero gives up that home run in his inning of work, but Albert Abreu, scoreless inning, along with Clay Holmes, a scoreless inning, and Ron Mandanacchio, pair of outs at the bullpen, scoreless, as you did have the Milwaukee Brewers also do a good job with their pitching. 6-1, they take down the St. Louis Cardinals as the Woodford and Jake Woodford got shelled, giving up 3 runs in 4 2/3 innings with having a home run surrendered to Willie Adames, 2nd home run season. Then Andre Palante would get taken deep by Christian Yelich for his 1st home run season. For Palante, gives up 3 runs in an inning. Genesis Cabrera, Jordan Hicks both give you a pair of outs out of the bullpen, and Ryan Helsley, a scoreless inning. But for the Cardinals, not a lot doing at the plate. 1 of 10 with men in scoring position as Freddie Peralta gives up just 1 run in 6 innings. Peter Strzelski, Devin Williams both provide a scoreless inning, and then Matt Bush, Hobie Milner, they were able to combine for a scoreless inning of their own. Speaking of scoreless, it was scoreless in Pittsburgh for the Chicago White Sox as the White Sox, they fall to the Pittsburgh Pirates 1-0. Michael Kopech, good start, gives up 1 run in 6 innings, 2 hits in total. Jimmy Lambert, Jake Diekman, they provide a scoreless inning, but nothing doing for the Southsiders as the Pittsburgh Pirates win while getting out hit by a count of 6-2, as you did have in this game Oniel Cruz have to leave the game as he got injured, but Johan Oviedo, nobody was able to touch him. 6 2/3 innings scoreless. Dodi Barreta got it out of the bullpen, and Connor Holderman, David Benner, they were able to supply a scoreless inning. The Miami Marlins, they were able to get a win in their series concluder against the New York Mets by a count of 7-2 as they got a solid start out of Braxton Garrett. 2 runs surrendered in 4 2/3 innings. Now, he gave up 9 hits, but was able to punch out 7 as the New York Mets, they ended up going 2 of 12 with men in scoring position in this game, and Carlos Cookie Carrasco got taken for a ride. 4 2/3 innings, giving up 6 runs, all of which were earned, including a pair of homers, as Brian De La Cruz, home run number 1 of the season, and you had home run number 3 of the season off the bat of Garrett Cooper for the Miami Marlins bullpen. It was rock solid. Tanner Scott, Dylan Floro combined for 3 scoreless innings. J.T. Chargois gets an out of the bullpen, and A.J. Puck a scoreless inning. I believe that Chargois had to leave this game, by the way, but for the Mets, Steven Agosich, good long relief, 3 1/3 innings, giving up 1 run, and Dennis Santana, he was able to go for a scoreless inning as well. If you are a fan of the extra inning rules and overs, this worked out well for you. The Cleveland Guardians get it done against the Seattle Mariners in 12 innings, 7-6 the final. 3 runs in the first inning, and then you would have no scoring until the 9th. So this was a very wild and crazy game, and for Seattle, George Kirby did his part. He gives up 1 run over the course of 6 innings. Diego Castillo, Trevor Gott, they both give you a scoreless inning out of the bullpen, but then Matt Brash gives up 2 runs in the 9th inning. You get a scoreless 10th inning out of Justin Topa, and then Ben Murphy gives up 2 unearned runs in the 11th inning, and you had J.B. Bukakis give up 2 runs, 1 of which was earned in the 11th inning, I believe, as the Seattle Mariners, they had a Cal Raleigh home run in the first inning be able to propel them as he went deep off of Zach Plesac for his first of the season, but Plesac from there calmed down, giving up 2 runs over the course of 7 innings. James Karinchak a scoreless inning, but then Emmanuel Clase yoked up a run in an inning. Trevor Stephen, he was able to turn a scoreless 10th before Aniel De Los Santos gives up 2 runs, 1 of which was earned in the 11th inning. Nick Sandlin gives up an unearned run in an inning before you get the final out in the 11th from Tim Herron. This game was just absolutely all over the place, as that is some fun baseball out there on Easter. The Walker Texas Rangers, they made for some fun baseball. They take down the Chicago Cubs by a count of 8-2 as they had no home runs in this game, but men on base all day long. They go 4 of 16 with men in scoring position as 55 Shades of John Gray. He had the Cubs feeling the blues, giving up 2 runs over the course of 5 2/3 innings. Will Smith gets jiggy with it. 4 outside the bullpen, scoreless before Cole Reagans, along with Jose Leclerc, both turn a scoreless inning. Meanwhile, for the Cubs, lone form of offense really in this game. Home run number 1 of the season out of Mr. Edwin Rios, says for the Chicago Cubs, you had Jameson Taillon give up 5 runs, 3 of which were earned over the course of 5 innings. He was hurt by a pair of errors out there in the field. Aviat Assad gives up 3 runs in 3 innings before Julian Merriweather holds down the fort. He was able to turn a scoreless inning. The San Francisco Giants, they were able to get it done against Kansas City Royals by a count of 3-1 as you had a very good start in this one from really both guys. Chris with the K. Bubich, 6 scoreless innings for the Giants. Anthony DeSclafani, 1 run surrendered over the course of 6 innings. From there, the Giants bullpen went to work. Taylor Rogers, along with Scott Alexander, both provide a pair of outs out the bullpen scoreless. Tyler Rogers gets a save as he goes for a scoreless inning, and John Brebbia and out of the bullpen. Michael Conforto goes deep off of Ryan Yarbrough in the 8th inning to propel the Giants to victory. 3rd home run of the season as Yarbrough gives up 3 runs in 1 1/3 innings, and Carlos Hernandez, pair of outs out of the bullpen. So the Giants, they're platooning. It worked on this day. The Colorado Rockies hitting at elevation worked as well. 7-6. They take down the Washington Nationals. For the Nats, no home runs in this one. They were able to do a nice job of being able to play a little bit of small ball and take advantage of a Colorado Rockies errors. Ryan Feldner gives up 3 runs in 5 innings. Jake Bird gives the team the bird, giving up 3 runs in 2/3 of an inning before Brad Hand gets it out of the bullpen. But Pierce Johnson, Justin Lawrence, and Dinelson Lamet, they all turn a scoreless inning to get the W. And then you had a pair of home runs for the Colorado Rockies as home run number 1 of the career of Jurickson Profar for the Colorado Rockies was had, and Elias Diaz was able to go deep for his first of the campaign. As for Washington, Chad Kuhl gave up both of those. The former Rocky gives up 5 runs in 5 innings, including both bombs. From there, Erasmo Ramirez gives up 2 runs in 2/3 of an inning before you need to get 2 1/3 innings scoreless out of Hobie Harris. So things have been all over the place for both of those teams. And as I am doing this, the game is still in the 6th inning. I do have to do this a little bit before the Greg Peterson experience, but game has already went over the total on the San Diego Padres as I record. They are up by a count of 10-1. Seth Lugo has looked relatively solid, giving up 1 run in his first 5 innings. And, well, it was not the Atlanta Braves night as the Dodd father and Dylan Dodd gives up 7 runs in 4 1/3 innings, and Lucas Luque from there has given up 3 runs in 1 2/3 innings. As for the Padres, Nelson Cruz, his 2nd home run of the season, Trent Grisham his 3rd, and Ha-Seong Kim, home run number 2 of the campaign. We're going to be talking about in the next segment with our good friend Jon Jansen. Some of these teams coming off of Sunday Night Baseball have not necessarily been so terrific, but what has been terrific is if you've been betting overs, as including that game between the Padres and the Atlanta Braves, the over is now 78-58 to begin the season. That's a little bit over 50% of games thus far this season going over the total, and we've been noticing that there has been a lot of favorites that have been able to do a relatively solid job of being able to cover the run line in their straight-up wins, as overall favorites straight-up are 84-56, and they've been able to cover the run line, being able to win by multiple runs in 69 of these instances. We've also been noticing that road teams have been feasting this year as well, 74-67 straight up. So that's what we're seeing in baseball right now, and that's what we all got on an MLB Easter Sunday. Coming up next, right here on the Baseball Betting Show, we're going to be talking to Jon Jansen over at Fox Sports Philadelphia, the Gambler, taking a look at the Phillies' start to the season, and also diving in on what we're going to be seeing on Monday with the Phillies and just league-wide right here on the Baseball Betting Show with myself, Greg Peterson, now a part of the VSiN Family Podcast.
Are you ready to become a winning sports bettor? Schedule a call with SBIA to find out how their service can make you a long-term winning player. They've developed an innovative algorithm that maximizes units return, and they are so confident in their system that they offer a money-back guarantee. Sign up by October 31st and get their MBA package at no cost until they reach 10 net units. They treat sports betting like a business. So if you want to learn how to make your sports betting dreams a reality, visit them at SBIA1.com and check them out on social media at SBIA Sports.
Breaking down every game, every day in Major League Baseball. This is the Baseball Betting Show. Here is your host, Greg Peterson.
And we're back here in lovely Las Vegas for the Baseball Betting Show with myself, Greg Peterson, now part of the VSiN Family Podcast. Always great to be joined by this man, as Jon Jansen. He does great work over at Fox Sports Philadelphia, the Gambler, taking a look at the great game of baseball and so many other things. He really holds it down with the entirety of the city of Philadelphia over there at Fox Sports Philadelphia, the Gambler. He does a great job with the show. The line change, you're able to catch that from 8 to 11 p.m. Eastern Time, and I know that he also does quite a few other shows over there at the Gambler. He's really their 5-tool utility player, so always do appreciate that. I know that he's been doing a little bit of a daily baseball betting podcast as well, so he's been doing a great job taking a look at this great game day in and day out, and you're able to follow him on Twitter at JJansen, the number 34 altogether. And John, always great to have you aboard. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for having me. And I wish it was a better day for the Phillies. They could have had on Sunday blown save, also some base running errors. So I wish that was a little bit better, but always good to talk baseball with you.
It is great to chat with you. And let's talk about those Phillies, because I'm not too surprised that the pitching has been a little bit rough to begin the season, because with Christopher Sanchez being down and the rotation really after your big two and Aaron Nola, Zach Wheeler, and Wheeler being a notoriously slow starter, you figured that that was going to be a little bit down. It's really been the hitting that has been surprising with me, because they're going to be entering the series with the Miami Marlins, and these are the bottom two teams in the National League in terms of total runs scored, and I could have seen one of these teams in the Miami Marlins having that distinction. I'm really surprised that the Phillies are in that vein as well, despite all the injuries.
Yeah, it's been terrible for them. And if you look at, obviously, runs created plus, a really good number to indicate whether they are creating runs. And they're 22nd in Major League Baseball. Now they're weighted on base average, WOBA, up to 17. So they have some guys that are hitting well, just untimely hitting. And a lot of that comes down to guys like Jake Cave having to get a lot of playing time, Christian Pache having to get a lot of playing time. Now Cody Clemens, because Derek Hall is out, along with, obviously, Rhys Hoskins, who's out for the season. There are some bright spots in the lineup. Trey Turner's hitting somewhat well. Bryson Stott is off to a tremendous start this season. And I think the bottom of the order with him, Alec Boehm, and Brandon Marsh, I think those three have shown a lot to me that thinks that the bottom of this lineup can actually be really good for the Phillies, but it's just not yet creating enough runs. And it's maybe because they're having to play some guys that they really didn't think they would have to at the start of the season. Now, obviously, that's a little bit of relief coming in the way of Bryce Harper, an MVP type player that could be coming sometime in May or early June. It's a lot of guys that, again, just weren't really expecting, and that's hurting them a lot at times.
Yep, and for the Philadelphia Phillies, you have to wonder how long they're going to be able to hold down the 4-4 before things do get a little bit more dire, because with Bryce Harper coming back, you know that the hitting is going to be able to revamp itself. You mentioned that Derek Hall is out on the injured list. Got to figure that he's going to be back sooner rather than later, but it's been looking relatively rough for them, and all of a sudden, you've got a team that the bullpen, it just has not been able to develop. I think that they're going to get more out of guys like Gregory Soto and company, some of the off-season acquisitions, but it just all in all has been a bad blend for them the first week and a half of the season, it feels.
Yeah, it has been. And that's the hope, right? The hope is Gregory Soto is going to be better. The hope is Sir Anthony Dominguez is going to be better. Now, the good thing is Jose Alvarado looks like the best relief pitcher in Major League Baseball right now. I think in the last 10 batters, he has struck out all 10 of them that he has faced. He's off to a great start. I'm hoping some of the other guys, look, Connor Brogdon has given him some good innings, which is good. Andrew Bellotti has given him some good innings, but you need Sir Anthony Dominguez and Soto to be a lot better. The one thing I will say about that is Craig Kimbrell looks like he might not have it anymore. And that's a guy that they're going to have to rely less and less on as the season goes on. Signing that, I don't mind a veteran coming in, but I think he's one that they're probably going to have to let off the gas a little bit and maybe use him in spots like the 6th, 7th inning instead of using him later in innings, which they have been. So there are some things I think can get better in their bullpen. Obviously, already some guys pitching well, but I know for sure Craig Kimbrell is probably not going to be in the long-term plans, and certainly I don't think going to be in high-leverage situations moving forward.
And for those wondering, yes, that was Jon Jansen who said that in 2019. We replayed it in 2020, 2021, 2022, and we are now replaying it in 2023 as well. You're hearing a replay, and it is the same old story with Craig Kimbrell every single year. Yep. Every team rolls the dice on him, and every team comes up snake eyes. This was probably the most predictable thing that we could have ever seen, as Jon Jansen of Fox Sports Philadelphia, the Gambler, is joining me on the podcast. But I think the real question for the Phillies going into Monday's game, and this has so much of the handicap, how much can we expect out of Matt Strahm? Because Strahm was expected to be a little bit more of a long guy who's getting starts right now because, as I mentioned, Christopher Sanchez, he's currently out of the fold. The team has been trying to mix and match with the rotation after Nola and Wheeler, and now he has to go up against Sandy Alcantara, and while Sandy Alcantara has to go out on the road, I feel like this is just a really unfair starting pitching advantage for the Miami Marlins, having the defending Cy Young Award winner who's always pitched well with Philadelphia, career .266 ERA, going up against a guy in Strahm that has not went north of 4 innings since July 2nd of 2019.
Yeah, he is not. I think he was part of the first window for the Phillies this season. 4 innings pitched, only gave up 1 hit, no earned, a 4-1 win against the Yankees. And really, I think it might have just been the Yankees that they not doing well, but all he did was just kind of pump fastballs. It was just a really straightforward game plan, and he was just pounding the strike zone. Look, maybe that could be good enough against the Marlins. I know the Marlins are struggling this year, and Miami, I would say, against lefties, I'm trying to see where their numbers kind of lie, and maybe a little bit better than I'm expecting, but I don't think Miami's hitting very well, and I don't think Miami's a very
They have the fewest runs in the National League right now, so
yeah, so that's not doing well, and I think lefties, it doesn't really matter what the splits are against either. I don't know if that really matters, but all I know is that Sandy Alcantara is one of the best pitchers in baseball, has already had a complete game and finished it in under 2 hours, which is remarkable, even with the pitch clock. Look, I'm not expecting much out of Strahm. I think he can get through about 4 innings. If everything goes right, he's probably still going to be on a pitch count. I know he was around 60 to 70 pitches. I think he ended up with 61 pitches in his first start against the Yankees, and I imagine it's going to be around the same. He's probably not going to go past the 4th inning. I think you can expect 4 out of him, and then obviously you're handing it off to a Phillies bullpen that has not been reliable. The only reason you would even think about betting the Phillies is you think the Marlins lineup is that bad, which they have been. I don't know if I'm willing to bet that, though, obviously, against Miami when they're throwing out, again, probably the best pitcher in baseball right now.
Yeah, that's a really rough ordeal because with the Miami Marlins, the lineup is not good at all. They did pick up Luis Arias, and I really like that pickup. He's been able to move the line for the team, so those home runs that they are able to get can turn into 2- and 3-run homers, but they are very few and far between. But taking a look at just some of the other games that we are going to be seeing on Monday, I do think that we've got some very intriguing ones, like out there in the NL East, the good old turkey tosser himself, and Patrick Corbin is going to be going out there. I assume that it's not going to be a plus money play for you on the Washington Nationals on Monday, but what are you intrigued to see? Because I think for me, the game of the night is the San Diego Padres versus New York Mets game. The Mets, they were able to get right a little bit more against the Miami Marlins, but you've got Max Scherzer going up against Yu Darvish, with Scherzer giving up back-to-back-to-back homers. But one angle I took a lot last year was fading these teams coming off of Sunday Night Baseball, and the Padres are going to be in that ordeal.
I don't know how much you want to play with that fire of, okay, Max Scherzer's not off to a great start, has given up 8 runs so far in 2 games, doesn't really look like himself, but of course, like you just said, a team coming off of Sunday Night Baseball and have to go now to New York, that Max Scherzer is going to maybe mow through this Padres lineup. And as much as I love you, Darvish, there always is that potential for him to kind of blow up in these kinds of games. It's probably a stay away spot for me, but it is a fun game. And look, maybe if this is another game that Max Scherzer struggles, then we can kind of hit the panic button a little bit for the Mets, because you have Justin Verlander, who's 40 years old and injured, and Max Scherzer, who's 40 years old and maybe is starting to lose it a little bit. I'm not going to say that he's going to be terrible, but I think maybe losing it to the point that he's not the Max Scherzer that he was just even last year and a few years ago. I think that game is kind of important early on because, again, 2 40-year-old pitchers, that's not really a great thing. And so one of them obviously dealing with injuries, the other maybe just feeling his age a little bit. I know one game I do like, White Sox and the Twins, Dylan Cease on the mound. I know the Twins are 6-3. I think that's a little bit overvalued, though, for the Twins to be the favorite, even at home at -115. Dylan Cease obviously better in this pitching matchup than Kenta Maeda. But also, if you kind of look at some of the metrics, White Sox are actually hitting better than the Twins. So the Twins 6-3 has been a lot because Maeda has been pitching well, along with Joe Ryan, along with Sonny Gray. But kind of when that runs out and they don't get that pitching, they haven't been hitting as well as you would think for a team that's 6-3. So if I'm backing the better lineup and I'm backing the better pitcher when I'm getting, close to even money, I think that's a number that's very worth it for me.
And what do we make out of the Tampa Bay Rays, who have started out 9-0? Because while it's great to start out 9-0 and you can only play the teams that have been on your schedule, they played against the Detroit Tigers, the Washington Nationals, and the Oakland A's. Not necessarily the monsters of the Midway, to say the least. And now they're going to be facing off against the Boston Red Sox team, which I think we will both agree the pitching not quite up to snuff this year. The offense, it has been absolutely magnificent to begin the season, though, and I'm really looking forward to this series because I take a look at a total of 8 with Nick Pivetta going for Boston, and it's going to be Josh Fleming as a bulk guy with Jalen Beeks being sort of the opener in this ordeal, and I think 8 is a little bit too low of a total for a Rays team that they're a little bit under the radar with their offense. And the Boston Red Sox, I think that they're going to be playing a lot of games that end like 7-5 this year.
Yeah, especially when you have your best players like Randy Arozarena and Wander Franco that are off to tremendous starts. Rays numbers right now are ridiculously good. They're leaders in WOBA, they're leaders in run created plus. So they're obviously off to a great start. They're probably going to cool down a little bit, I would say, at some point. I don't know if this lineup is that good, but when you're getting that kind of production, again, from your top 2 players, then you're probably in good shape, especially against Nick Pivetta, which I've been kind of hammering against Nick Pivetta a little bit. I know he's not off to the worst start, but still, he did end up losing an effort, 5 innings pitched, 1 earned against the Pittsburgh Pirates. I think Nick Pivetta is always due to get hit hard, and Tampa Bay at home, I think you're right. And obviously, like you said, with Tampa, the one thing with Tampa, I do think their pitching is sustainable to a point. I mean, obviously they have the lowest runs allowed in the league so far at 18, but they have always great bullpen arms. They always have arms available, even in the minor leagues, but it's that starting rotation that is excellent. And you're going to get a guy like Tyler Glasnow back. Zach Eflin, I thought, was a really good pickup. And also Shane McClanahan has been a great young pitcher for them a few years now up in the major leagues, and he's been great. It's just health. Can they stay healthy? Because a lot of those guys, especially Zach Eflin, especially Tyler Glasnow, have had a lot of injury history. So is that going to come into play this season? And if it does, obviously I think I hate to say cool the Jets on the Rays, but I think we have to temper expectations a little bit compared to this 9-0 start. But for this game against the Red Sox, yeah, I love that total. As you're saying, it's a little bit low, but also any way to find the Rays here against Nick Pivetta at a good number. I haven't seen any of the numbers yet. I don't have any up where I'm at currently, but at the right number, the Rays are certainly a look against Nick Pivetta.
I'm seeing right around about a minus 145, minus 150 or so on the Tampa Bay Rays. I think that this would probably be a little bit more of a run line or take the underdog sort of spot, because I do think that if the Rays win, they are probably going to be winning by multiple runs, because Nick Pivetta has actually been better on the road than he has been at home. But you get into that Red Sox bullpen, and it's not necessarily so trustworthy as well. And John, I've also got to ask you about this as well, because I'm sure that there's going to be a lot of people that react a lot to these two teams and their hot starts, the Milwaukee Brewers and the Arizona Diamondbacks. Diamondbacks start out 6-4 as they were able to take it to the LA Dodgers on Sunday, and they face off against a surprising 7-2 Milwaukee Brewers with Wade Miley and Zach Gallen going, with Wade Miley being the hot pitcher to start the year in this matchup, and the Diamondbacks are right around about a minus 140, minus 145 or so. What do you make out of this game? Because both of these teams, they've been surprising in their own rights, and I just don't know what's sustainable about both of these teams, because I think that Zach Gallen is actually the biggest underachiever on this roster. The rest of the roster is overachieving. Meanwhile, the Milwaukee Brewers, they've been hitting really well with their young guys. I just don't think that Brian Anderson is going to continue to do what he's doing.
Yeah, I've bet against Zach Gallen in both games, and I wish I got the Padres one, but that was my first. I've been calling them bullpen casualties, in which I feel like I got everything right, and I got the handicap right, and then the bullpen just kind of blows it for me. So that was one of those games, but Zach Gallen is not off to a great start. Look, if you want to play kind of the reverse here, because Zach Gallen is going to pitch better than he has been pitching, and at some point, Brian Anderson has got to cool down. At some point, this Brewers lineup has got to cool down, because I don't think they're that good. They haven't been that good in the past couple of seasons, and I think it's just only going to continue to get worse. But when you have guys like Brian Anderson, who's already at an OPS above 1,200, you have Garrett Mitchell has an OPS over 1,000. Those are guys that I just wouldn't have expected it from, and they're getting halfway decent play from Christian Yelich. Only one home run, but look, a 752 OPS. Willie Adames is off to a good start. We know he's probably one of the best hitters in their lineup. I would say maybe the best hitter in their lineup. So at some point, look, those guys that we know aren't going to keep that up, like Anderson, like Mitchell. This Brewers lineup is going to cool down. Obviously, though, I don't know when that's going to happen. It's hard to predict when it's going to happen, but I think at some point I am going to play the reverse here. Zach Gallen was getting premium numbers, right? He was getting a pretty penny to try and bet for Zach Gallen, even against teams like the Dodgers, and those prices would be reduced because Gallen is so good. But I felt there was going to be regression, but this is significant regression that I don't think is going to keep up in this manner. And so Zach Gallen at some point I think is going to have that positive regression. Maybe it could happen at home here against the Brewers.
Perhaps it could, but something that is always positive is getting you on the show, John. I know that you do great work out there with Fox Sports Philadelphia, the Gambler in Philadelphia, and I know you've got your own baseball betting podcast that you started up this year as well. So let the good people at home know what's all on tap for you and how people can follow along on social media and other platforms.
Yeah, you can follow me at jjansen34 on Twitter. That's where you can see most of the links to this stuff. But yes, the Stealing the Bag podcast, a weekday podcast Monday through Friday that you can check out as well. Doing my best Greg Peterson impression. Not a best impression, but I'm trying. And it's a really good show with my co-host Jeremy Horwath, who helps me out a lot with that show. And also Fox Sports The Gambler. Just follow us at FoxPHO Gambler and FoxPHOGambler.com.
John does absolutely amazing work taking a look at a wide variety of things, everything that is going on in the great city of Philadelphia and the great game of baseball day in and day out. It's always great to get him aboard on this show. A big thanks to John for joining me right here on the Baseball Betting Show, now part of the VSiN Family Podcast. And coming up next, it is that time in the podcast. I give you picks and analysis on every game on the betting board for this MLB Monday as we touch them all.
Breaking down every game, every day in Major League Baseball. This is the Baseball Betting Show. Here is your host, Greg Peterson.
And we're back here in lovely Las Vegas for the Baseball Betting Show with myself, Greg Peterson, now part of the VSiN Family Podcast. And it's always a pleasure to get Jon Jansen of Fox Sports Philadelphia, the Gambler, aboard. He does amazing work over there. You're able to catch him on the line change every Monday through Friday. I know that he does a little bit of everything over there. And he's got his own baseball betting podcast that he mentioned in the last segment. I highly recommend you check that out. And it is always great to be able to get him aboard. Big thanks to John for joining me in the last segment. Now it is that time of the podcast to give you picks and analysis on every game on the betting board for this MLB Monday as we touch them all.
If a game is listed on the betting board, Greg has a side and a total on it, so it is time to touch them all.
Do note that as per usual, any changes that are made to these plays will be listed up on my Twitter feed at GNN_D1. We are going to be going in Las Vegas rotation order, and this is a very easy order to maintain. This is where we go with the National League games first, then the American League games, and any interleague games. Those are going to be at the bottom. That'll keep things all nice, neat, clean, and easy. So, without further ado, let's dive in, and we're going to start with our DK Nation write-up pick. This is 901, 902 on the betting board. The Miami Marlins hit the road. They're facing off against the Philadelphia Phillies. Matt Stram goes for the Phils, and one Sandy Alcantara is going to be on the bump for Miami. Miami is in a pick'em game. You're going to find them pretty much minus 110 across the board. Anywhere between even money and minus 110 is your number. On the Phillies, 7.5 is the total. The under is between minus 110 and minus 115. The over is between minus 105 and minus 110. And right up here is going to be on the Miami Marlins money line. The Miami Marlins currently dead last in the National League in terms of runs per game. That's not ideal. Who do you think is second worst though? That would be the Philadelphia Phillies. They have really been struggling. They now have Derek Hall out of the fold to go along with Rhys Hoskins and Bryce Harper being out to begin the year. Now, they do have guys who are able to move the line. Bryson Stott has been hitting really well, hitting above a 400 to begin the season. Trey Turner, he's been a valuable pickup for this team. You've got Kyle Schwarber. He's a little bit of an all-or-nothing hitter. He's got 2 home runs, but hitting below the Mendoza line of a 200, but you've got a lot of guys that are banged up. Brandon Marsh has not necessarily been too terrific for this team, and what's really concerning about the Phillies is their bullpen. Now, Miami does not back up Sandy Alcantara with a good bullpen. They are third worst in the league in terms of bullpen ERA. Phillies are second to worst in bullpen ERA, and who knows how much length you're going to be able to get out of Matt Stram. Stram looks solid in his last start, going 4 innings, giving up 1 hit, no runs against the New York Yankees. That's terrific, but last time Stram has went north of 4 innings in any appearance, you have to go back to July 2nd of 2019. I mean, yuck. That's not great. Stram last 2 years, about a 4.38 ERA with 3.2 walks per 9 innings coming out of the bullpen. Meanwhile, Sandy Alcantara, since the beginning part of last season, a 2.26 ERA. He has really been able to go deep into starts. He averages about 7 1/3 innings per start. So that bad bullpen of the Miami Marlins, you see much less of it than you do with the Philadelphia Phillies bullpen. I do think that the Phillies are going to be able to improve with their bullpen, but they did have to burn up quite a few guys. Yesterday, you've got Sir Anthony Dominguez, Gregory Soto, guys like this that they have been used quite a bit recently. Meanwhile, for the Miami Marlins, they have had to use their bullpen a bit, but they honestly have been able to get a little bit more rest than the Philadelphia Phillies. You do have A.J. Puck, who got used up yesterday, and J.T. Chargois, but they, both between the two of them, used up 14 pitches, so they should be good to go in this one. Those are more of your trustworthy guys, and then you've got guys like Matt Barnes, Dylan Floro that are a little bit more of a roll of the dice, but for the Miami Marlins, they actually have more home run power right now than the Philadelphia Phillies. Only the Washington Nationals have fewer home runs right now than the Philadelphia Phillies, as you've had Jorge Soler be able to go deep 3 times, and they picked up Luis Arias from the Minnesota Twins, hitting a 471, and then to the detriment of the Phillies, their starter from last year, Gene Segura. He's on the Miami Marlins. Garrett Cooper has been able to move the line. Sandy Alcantara, reigning Cy Young Award winner, has a career 2.66 ERA in Philadelphia in 8 starts on the road against these very Phillies. I think that he's going to be able to hold them down once again. So right up here is on the Miami Marlins money line. I did set them as a minus 132 favorite. Both of these teams have had struggles to score. I do think that Stram gives an okay start. I do think that both of these bullpens do rebound a little bit. Gregory Soto is not going to be as bad as he has been to begin the season. So I did set my total at 6.9. I do think that it's going to be a struggle to score, but in the end, much more faith in Alcantara than Matt Stram. My right up here is on that Miami Marlins money line, and here it is 7.5. Set my total at 6.9. Looking under 903, 904 on the betting board. It is the San Diego Padres in the road face-off against the New York Mets. And Max Scherzer goes for the Mets. Yu Darvish is on the bump for the Padres. And the Mets, they're anywhere between minus 120 and minus 125 favorites, saying between plus 105 and plus 110 is your number on the Pods. 7 to 7.5 is your total. On the 7, the over is between -120 to a -125. Unders between even a +105 on the 7.5. Unders between -120, -125. Overs between even a +105. Set the Mets at -124. Thought I'd be on the side of the Padres, but money is really poured in on the Padres at a -123 or less. I'm willing to lay with the Mets. I'm seeing a lot of -120. Now, also keep in mind that the San Diego Padres did have to play on Sunday Night Baseball as well, and track record of teams that have played on Sunday Night Baseball since the beginning of the 2022 season, they have won fewer than 40% of their games on that Monday following, so not great there. Now, what else is not great is the fact that Max Scherzer gave up back-to-back-to-back jacks in his last start against the Milwaukee Brewers, and Yu Darvish looked solid in his first start. The team lost that game against the Arizona Diamondbacks, but wasn't due to Yu Darvish. He gives up 1 run over the course of 5 innings. Now, he did walk 4 in that start, and for Yu Darvish, he has had some pretty demonstrative home and road splits. Last season, he had a 3.50 road ERA compared to a 2.60 home ERA. Season before, his ERA was nearly 2 points higher on the road than it was at home, but he has been able to do a much better job on the road, I would say, post-All-Star break of 2022, and I do think the Max Scherzer are going to be able to rebound a little bit more. He has given up 4 home runs to begin the season, but I still do think that old Max Scherzer is going to be able to come out as in his first few starts. First 4 or so the innings, he looks solid. It's really in that 5th and 6th inning where things break down, and the Mets need to realize this and utilize some of their very good bullpen, as David Robertson is a rock-solid closer. Adam Ottavino is able to give you an inning or two of the bullpen. Even someone like Steven Nagosic, he's become a relatively good reliever for the team as well. A bit of a journeyman, but he has had a sub-250 ERA over the last 2 seasons. Meanwhile, for the San Diego Padres, Josh Hader has been rock solid for this team, but Domingo Tapia, not great. Nabel Christmas is an okay long guy, but Brent Honeywell is someone that I really don't have a lot of faith in. I actually do like Steven Wilson, sub-3 ERA out of him last season, and for the San Diego Padres, you've had very good production out of Xander Bogaerts. This is paying dividends right away. Entered into Sunday Night Baseball with 3 bombs, hitting at .333. Manny Machado starting to move the line. You've had Juan Soto give you a pair of homers and a .325 on base, but he's hitting just a .182 thus far this season. Awesome Kim hits for a decent average, but not necessarily a lot of power. Meanwhile, for the New York Mets, Pete Alonso off to a raging hot start to begin the season. 5 home runs for him already. Rest of the team as they combine 5, and got to feel like some of these guys are going to be able to pick it up. Eduardo Escobar, it's not been himself since coming to New York, but he's not this bad of a hitter. Currently hitting a .125. Brandon Nimmo, along with Tommy Pham, are both hitting below a .230. I do think that they are going to be able to rebound the catcher spot in general in Tomas Nido, Armar Narvaez. I think that they're going to be able to give you quite a bit of something. Jeff McNeil, after a slow, I would say, week or so of the season, he's starting to move the line as well. So I do think that the Mets are going to be able to get it done against a Padres team that you got to figure that playing on Sunday Night Baseball, it is going to be taking a little bit of something out of them. I did set my total 6.7. This is going to be a nighttime game out there in New York. I do think that Darvish is going to be able to turn a good start. I do think that Max Scherzer looks a little bit more like himself, and I think that the Mets are going to read that he just isn't Max Scherzer after the 5th or so inning. I do think that they're going to be picking up on that. I am going to be taking a look at this 7 to 7.5 under, set my total at 6.7, and with the Mets, want to lay up to a -123, with them mostly seeing -120, 905, 906 on the betting board. The Atlanta Braves are going to be playing us the Cincinnati Reds. Yes, we are on to Cincinnati, and they're on to Graham Ashcraft, getting the start for them, and Bryce Elder is on the bump for Atlanta. Atlanta is anywhere between a -180 to a -195 favorite, seeing as high as -$2, anywhere between +155 and +180 is your number on the Red Legs. 9 is your total, over is -115, the under is -105, and if you're looking at the run line of the Atlanta Braves, finding it out of +110, and that's where I am looking. The run line of the Braves says I need at least a +186 to take a shot on the Reds' money line. We're not quite there, but I was willing to lay a price on the Braves run line, and I'm getting plus money. I recognize that they're also a team that may fall into that Sunday Night Baseball vortex, but at the very least for the Atlanta Braves, they do not need to travel, so that is very big in this ordeal, in my opinion, and the Atlanta Braves just have a smoldering hot offense right now. You saw Matt Olson have a really good spring training. That's translated to the regular season, entering into Sunday Night Baseball, hitting .361 with 3 home runs this year. You've got Ronald Acuna Jr., Austin Riley, Marcell Ozuna, Orlando Arcia, all with 2+ home runs thus far this season, entering into Sunday Night Baseball. Now Ozuna, all 2 of his hits have been home runs thus far, but you got other guys like Travis d'Arnaud, Austin Riley, being able to move the line, hitting above a 3 on Ronald Acuna Jr. Looks much more like Ronald Acuna Jr. than he did last year coming back from that injury. Meanwhile, for the Reds, they just don't have a lot of offense. They didn't return anyone with north of 12 home runs from a season ago. Now, they do have a trio of home runs thus far out of Jason Vosler. He's been a nice find for this team, and after being banged up much of last year, Tyler Stevenson hitting well above a 3. He does a good job being able to reach base, but other than Jonathan India is able to do a solid job as a leadoff guy, you don't have a ton with this offense. You're relying upon Will Myers, who just hasn't been able to find it in recent years. Spencer Steer, Ore Barrero is someone that is just much more of a fielder than he is someone that you can rely upon at the plate. So, got issues there. For the Reds, you do have a pair of guys I like in the bullpen. Alexis Diaz, Fernando Cruz last year both had a sub-2 ERA, but when you get into guys like Derek Law, Alex Young, Revier Martin, it's a little bit of a roll of the dice. And for the Atlanta Braves, they were 4th in the league last year in bullpen ERA while carrying Kenley Jansen. Now they've got a little bit more trustworthiness with older guys and some like a Jesse Chavez, Joe Jimenez, Lucas Luque, but Dylan Lee has been able to do a good job holding down the fort. You've also got Kirby Yates, who's trying to be a little bit of a reclamation story after he was one of the best closers in the big leagues about 4 to 5 seasons ago. For this Reds team, I just don't think that they're going to be able to hold up in this spot, even though Graham Ashcraft does a good job with his command. He had a little bit over 2 walks per 9 innings last season. First start of the year was very solid. 7 innings, gives up 1 solo home run, and that was it. But you do take a look at Graham Ashcraft, and he had his issues on the road last season. He had a 5.10 road ERA, only gave up 4 home runs in 47 and 2/3 innings, but he gives up a lot of contact. His strikeouts per 9 rate was right around 6, and that's a big issue going up against an Atlanta Braves team that they do a good job of hitting the ball hard. And for Bryce Elder, he last year had a relatively solid go of it. He did face the Washington Nationals and the Miami Marlins a lot, but he shut up a lot of people with 6 scoreless innings against the St. Louis Cardinals. Has had some issues with regards to command. He did have 3 walks in that first start, and for his career, he does have about 3.5 walks per 9 innings, but it's very clear that his swing and miss stuff is starting to get there. I believe that he played his college baseball at Texas, and he is really building himself up as a nice young gun. So this is a spot where I do think that the Braves are going to be able to put some runs up. I'm willing to lay it on the run line with them. And for the Reds, this is one of the worst offenses in all of baseball. Their numbers do get inflated by the fact that they play at Great American Ballpark, but I don't think that they're going to be able to get to Elder and company. I said my total at an 8.8 looking under, and for the Atlanta Braves, going to be willing to take a plus price on them on the run line. 907, 908 on the betting board. The St. Louis Cardinals, they are going to be playing on the road against the Colorado Rockies. Herman Marquez is going to be going for the Rockies, and Steven Matz is on the bump for St. Louis. St. Louis and between minus 130 to minus 140 favorites, and between plus 110 and plus 126. Your number on Colorado. 11 is the total. Over and under anywhere between minus 105 and minus 115. I did set my total at 10.8. I'm going to be willing to take the under. Now, Steven Matz, the big issue with him is that he gives up loads of hard contact. At least 1.5 home runs per 9 innings surrendered in 4 of the last 5 years that he's pitched. And you got Sheldon his first start against the Atlanta Braves, giving up 4 runs over the course of 5 1/3 innings. And I do think that we're going to be seeing much of the same this season, but I like the way that Herman Marquez has been able to come out to begin the season. He has given up 6 runs across his first 2 starts, but on the road against Padres, on the road against the Dodgers. Not necessarily easy competition, and I do think that Marquez is going to be better at home this year than he was last year. Last year, he had an ERA of a 6.70 at home, 3.43 when he was away from home. Season before, it was the complete opposite, 3.67 home ERA, 5.38 road ERA. I think that things are going to be a little bit more net neutral this season for the Colorado Rockies. They do a good job of being able to put bat to ball, as you've got a quadrant of guys in Jonathan Daza, Chris Bryant, Eli Hirias, Montero, along with Charlie Blackmon, all with the double-digit amount of hits as far this season. CJ Cron has not really gotten yards since that opening series against the Padres, but he had 22 home runs at Coors Field last season. Blackmon is sitting above a 300 thus far this campaign. You've been able to get some good production at the bottom of the fold. I do think that Urickson and Profar, all in all, is going to be a net positive for the team. And for the St. Louis Cardinals, this team does a nice job of being able to put bat to ball. Nolan Arenado, Paul Goldschmidt, these 2 guys have a combined 24 hits as far this season. You've got the young guy in Jordan Walker hitting a 3.53 to begin the season. This whole young outfield, Alec Burleson, even though he's on the injured list, Lars Nootbaar, Dylan Carlson, I like all these guys, but I do think that for the Cardinals, the elevation change going from Milwaukee to Colorado, it's going to take a lot out of them in this first game, and I think that it's going to take them a bit to be able to get their sea legs back, which is why I did set the Rockies as a bit of a favorite. And the Colorado Rockies, they have been able to revamp this bullpen a little bit. They bring in Brad Hand, who's I mean, not the world's greatest reliever, but it's better than what they had last year. They're still dealing with the injury to Daniel Bard, but Pierce Johnson, I thought, was a relatively solid move. He was pitching last season with the San Diego Padres. He did post up a 5.02 ERA, but he was very banged up prior to that. A 3.25 ERA or better in each of the previous 2 years. Brent Suter is someone that you're able to rely upon in this bullpen, and for the St. Louis Cardinals, you haven't been able to get a lot out of Ryan Helsley since the back half of last season. Looked very good for quite a bit of 2022. Lost it towards the back half of the season, has not been able to find it since. Giovanni Gallegos, Genesis Cabrera, these are guys that are relatively trustworthy in the bullpen, but Jordan Hicks has been very hit or miss as well. I do think that the Cardinals are going to be able to get a bit of contact on Ermar Marquez, but I do think that Marquez turns a relatively solid start. I do think that the Rockies get to Steven Matz, but I do think that the change in elevation for the St. Louis Cardinals, that's going to give the Rockies a very nice home edge in this spot, and that's going to cause a typically potent offense to be a little bit more sleepy on this one. I set my total at 10.8, so here at an 11 looking at the under, and I set the Colorado Rockies as about a minus 115 favorite, so getting a plus price with them. I'm going to be taking them on the money line to go along with this total under 909, 910 on the betting board. The Milwaukee Brewers, they throw it face off against the Arizona Diamondbacks. Zach Gallen is going to be going for Arizona, and Wade Miley is hoping to have a party in Arizona as he goes for the Brewers, as the Brewers are underdogs of between plus 120 and plus 134. Meanwhile, Arizona is between a minus 142 and minus 150 favorite with a total of 8.5. Over is minus 115, under is minus 105, and with the Snakes, I set them minus 138 on the money line. So we're starting to get a little bit too lofty here, but we're not in range on the Milwaukee Brewers. If you're looking at the run line price, I'm currently finding that at about a plus 125, and it's something that I'm not looking to do. So currently I'm in wait and see mode, because when a lot of places post up the timeline, I'm thinking that the Brewers are going to be more around a plus 140 or so, and that would be my buy point on Milwaukee. So it's looking like it's most likely going to be a play on Milwaukee, but it is a little bit of a hold off mode, see where this goes in the AM. And Zach Gallen, I did have to downgrade him a little bit because he doesn't look sharp to begin the season. He's allowed a combined 10 runs, 9 of which were earned first 2 starts of the year. Now, that game against the San Diego Padres and the LA Dodgers, both on the road, so there is a little bit of an asterisk there to boost that up, and Gallen was tremendous at home last season. 2.49 ERA, giving up 6 home runs in 90 in a third inning, so 0.6 home runs per 9 innings, but the big thing that has always ailed Gallen is walks. 4 walks in his first 10 and third innings. That's a bit of an issue, and Wade Miley, you know that he's not going to go out there and he's going to get a bunch of strikeouts or anything like that, but 6 scoreless innings to start the year, that is pretty stinking impressive, as he was able to do a nice job there. Just hasn't been healthy in recent years. The last time he was fully healthy with the Houston Astros back in, I believe it was the 2019 campaign, he was relatively good until things just went completely down the toilet bowl for him in September. And for the Milwaukee Brewers, do I think that these young bats are going to be able to sustain what they're doing? No, Brian Anderson has 3 home runs and is sitting at 370 right now. That is going to be falling off a little bit. You got someone like a Joey Wiemer who's been able to give you quite a bit of production, 387 on base. Garrett Mitchell is really the guy that I think is most sustainable out of these young bats, hitting at 286. Christian Yelich, he's been able to move a line, but his power numbers way down from what they were at his peak. But I do think that all in all, the Brewers, they have been able to find some nice pieces in their farm system, and I do think that I personally underestimated them coming into the season. I think that a lot of people did. Meanwhile, for the Arizona Diamondbacks, this team was actually one of the worst teams at being able to hit home runs at home a season ago, and I do think that that'll be carrying over this year. It feels like Arizona is playing a little bit more pitcher-friendly with the humidors and what have you. You've got Corbin Carroll has been able to give you multiple home runs this year. He's hitting about a 255, but don't have a lot of guys that are moving the line for the team. Nick Ahmed hitting at 313, but he's only seen 16 at-bats. Among the guys that have had at least 20 at-bats, really, Carroll's the only guy that's hitting above a 240 for this team, so that's a bit of an issue. They have gotten back Josh Rojas. He's been able to move the line, so that is nice. Ketel Marte, a little bit slow getting off to a rough start, but with Carroll as well. 5 stolen bases, and for the Arizona Diamondbacks, I like the additions that they made to the bullpen, and Andrew Chaffin, Miguel Castro, these guys have been able to hold it down. Kevin Ginkel, he's an okay reliever. I do like Kyle Nelson as well, so it's a bit of a better bullpen than what it's been in the past. And for the Brewers, they do lose Josh Hader, which I still think was a stupid move, but Joel Payamps, Peter Strzelski, they're not going to light the world on fire, but they're relatively okay relievers. you've got someone in Devin Williams who's one of the better closers that you're going to find in the big league. So I do think that the Brewers are going to be able to keep this game out in front of them, and I do think that this is going to be a bit of a lower scoring game. I did set my total at 7.8, looking under with the Brewers. I need at least a plus 138 on them. Currently I'm seeing a max of plus 134, but I'm doing this with early opener numbers. I'm thinking that more of when these timelines come out, I will probably be able to get a plus 140 on the Brewers. So that's where I'm looking as of right now to go along with the under. 9-11, 9-12 on the betting board is the San Francisco Giants playing against the LA Dodgers. One Julio Urias is going to be going for the Dodgers, and Logan Webb is on the bump for the Giants. Giants are between plus 120 and plus 125 underdogs, anywhere between minus 133 and minus 140. Your number on LA, 7.5 is the total. Over is minus 115. The under is minus 105. With the Dodgers, I did set them at minus 124. I need at least a plus 124 to dive in on the San Francisco Giants. We have just barely gotten there, so going to be looking at a plus 125 or greater on Logan Webb, as Logan Webb, a little bit of a slow start to begin the season, 4 runs surrendered in each out of his first 2 starts, but you take a look at what Logan Webb has been able to do at home in recent years, and it's been relatively impressive. A sub-2 ERA during that magical 2022 season last year, 291 home ERA, giving up 2 home runs in 99 innings. Certainly think that that's going to be going up just a little bit, and it is always tough going up against the LA Dodgers, but Logan Webb has honestly had some success against the LA Dodgers, as last year, a bit of a rough season for him. 5.57 ERA when facing off against the LA Dodgers 2 seasons ago at 2.25 ERA, so net little bit over a 3.5-ish ERA. I mean, that's not great, but at the same time, when you face off against the LA Dodgers, that is actually quite good. Meanwhile, you've got a guy in Julio Urias who's been much better on the road than he has been at home in recent years. As a matter of fact, out of his 37 wins that he has gotten the last 2 seasons, he has gotten 24 of them when he has been on the road and had a sub-2 road ERA last season. As a matter of fact, each of the last 2 years, his ERA has been about a half a point lower on the road rather than at home. On the road last year, he gave up less than a home run per 9 innings. His walks per 9 rate overall was just a little bit above 2, and this LA Dodgers bullpen, it is rock solid, with mainly guys that are a bit under the radar, guys like Evan Phillips, Alex Vesia, Caleb Ferguson, Yancy Almonte, all providing a sub-3.4 ERA. Now the Dodgers did not get the world's greatest length out of Michael Grove yesterday, but they've been having Jason Hayward go off. 3 home runs for him already this year. You got Freddie Freeman hitting north of a 400. Mookie Betts, he has only supplied 1 home run thus far this year. You know that that's going to be picking up. But James Oatman, he has been hitting well above a 300 as well. So the Dodgers, they aren't quite as fearsome as they've been in past years. They lose Justin Turner. You've got Gavin Lux, who is out for the season. But against the San Francisco Giants, it's all about platooning. For the Giants, you do have a trio of home runs for Michael Conforto, and then Mike Yastrzemski, Jock Peterson, J.D. Davis, along with Mr. David Villar. All these guys have 2 home runs thus far this season. You're probably not going to have anyone hit north of, I would say, about 25 or so homers for the Giants this year, but you're going to have a lot of guys that they hit right around 20, 21, 22. They do a great job with those splits, and I do think that that is going to be the key to success for them. Now, the Giants are going to be outdueled in the bullpen a little bit, but Scott Alexander, Camilo Doval, these are a pair of guys that had a sub-3.3 ERA last season. You've got Rogers squared and Tyler and Taylor Rogers. Neither guy is great. Neither guy is terrible. I do think that the bullpen is going to do just enough, and I do think that Logan Webb is going to be able to pick it up. Julio Urias, someone that I do like on the road, but this is a Dodgers lineup that is a little bit depleted. Webb had a tough time last year against the LA Dodgers. I do think that he's going to be able to do a bit of a better job this year with the lineup looking a little bit different. So my total is 6.9, looking at the under. Nighttime game in San Francisco. Hard to drive that ball out. And for the Giants, we'll take plus 125 or greater with them. 9-13, 9-14 on the betting board. The Chicago White Sox hit the road face-off against the Minnesota Twins. Kenta Maeda goes for the Twins. Dylan Cease is on the bump for the White Sox. White Sox are anywhere between even money and plus 105, seeing a straight plus 110 out there as well. Meanwhile, for the Twins, staying between minus 110 and minus 125, 7.5 is the total. Overs between minus 115 and minus 120, unders between even and minus 105. I feel like the White Sox should be a slight favorite. Set them as a minus 108, so finding them at plus money in a lot of spots, I'm going to be willing to take that money line. Dylan Cease, he's just been absolutely relentless in his career at being able to get strikeouts, north of 11.5 strikeouts per 9 innings last season, and last season a 2 ERA on the road, allowing about .75 home runs per 9 innings. Overall, home and road, opponents hit 190 off of him. Now, the big thing with Dylan Cease, keeping those walks down, about 3.8 walks per 9 innings last season. And for Kenta Maeda, first start since 2021 for him was very solid. He gives up 1 run in 5 innings against Miami Marlins. Tough luck loser as the team lost that game 1-0, but he did his part. And for Kenta Maeda, the big thing for him as well is being able to have some command early on during the season, because that was really a little bit of a bugaboo for him when he was actually pitching during that 2021 season, right around 2.7, 2.8 walks per 9 innings. But you go back to that truncated 2020 season, he was actually a Cy Young candidate. He did have a 6.06 road ERA, but a 2.13 home ERA. Last time he really fully pitched in 2021, this ballpark seems to suit him very well, and he's backed up by a nice bullpen. But for the Minnesota Twins, you do have one of the best closers in the league in Yohan Duran, who's able to pitch 100 plus miles per hour. Jorge Lopez, Jorge Alcala. So essentially, Jorge squared. Both of these guys have been able to do a nice job. Giovanni Morin had a sub-3 ERA last season. Griffin Jax, he's able to give you some length out of the bullpen. And for the Chicago White Sox, they're clearly missing Liam Hendriks. It's been a rough go of it for Joe Kelly. You can't trust in him whatsoever, but I do like what you're able to get out of Jimmy Lambert, Reynaldo Lopez, pair of guys with a sub-3.4 ERA last season. Aaron Bummer is able to come in. He's able to hold down the fort. Jake Diekman has not been good this year, and he's a little bit long in the tooth, but for the Chicago White Sox, a lot of guys are doing a nice job of moving the line, and Luis Robert is off to a really nice start this year. 4 home runs with a 3.66 average. Now, I believe that he's got as many walks as myself, as this is a White Sox team that they are going to be free swingers up there at the plate, but Yoel Moncada, Tim Anderson, they're able to do a nice job putting back to ball. Gotten a nice surprise out of Oscar Colas. He's been hitting at 300. I like Andrew Vaughn and what he's been able to do at the dish as well. You don't necessarily have supreme power outside of Robert, but all in all, I like what I'm seeing there. And then, of course, Eloy Jimenez, he just has been all over the place when he has actually been healthy. And for the Minnesota Twins, you've got functional power. Joey Gallo does have 3 home runs, but I believe that he's got 5 hits in total, and 3 of them have flown over the fence. That's what you could expect out of him. And I think that you've got a lot of guys who are just going to be simply moving the line. Byron Buxton had a lot of home runs last season, but wasn't able to get on in terms of average. I think that he's getting back to a little bit more average this season. He was dealing with injuries, so he had to really drive the ball out because he had a little bit less speed last season. It feels like he's getting back to basics. You've got Carlos Correa currently hitting below the Mendoza line of 200. You know that he is going to be able to bolster that up. Trevor Larnach has been able to do a good job of getting on base. Jose Miranda as well, but I do think that Dylan Cease, O'Toole's Kenta Maeda just simply missed all of 2022. I think that it's going to take him a little bit to be able to get back on kilter. So I did set the White Sox as a minus 108 favorite. I'm going to be taking them on the money line. I think that this is going to be a low-scoring game. It is an AM game, but still rather cold out there in the Midwest, and I do think that both of these offenses going to be held rather silent, as neither of these teams necessarily have supreme power. Set by total at 6.8, looking at the under, and I'm going to take the White Sox on the money line. 9-15, 9-16 on the betting board. The New York Yankees at third face-off against the Cleveland Guardians, as you've got Shane Bieber, who has a fever for getting outs for the Guardians, and Domingo Germán is on the bump for the Yankees. 7.5 is your total, over and under anywhere between minus 105, minus 115, with the Guardians getting them between minus 135 and minus 145, anywhere between plus 115 and plus 133. Your number on the Yankees, one to lay up to a minus 138 with the Guardians. Seeing some 135 out there, that is my really max buy point on the Guardians, but it is a buy point for me. Domingo Germán really giving up quite a bit of hard contact in recent years. You take a look at what he did during the 2022 campaign, and his home runs per 9 rate was hovering right around 1.35. Now, the walks are actually rather functional, about 2.3 walks per 9 innings, but the swing and miss stuff, it was down last year coming back from injury. I think that it's going to be improved this year, but not off to the world's greatest start, as he gave up 4 runs, 2 home runs in 4 2/3 innings at a loss against the Phillies to begin the campaign. And Shane Bieber, he's looked very good to begin the season. A combined 3 runs surrendered over the course of 12 innings. Strikeout stuff has really been down the last 2 seasons, but he's doing a good job with a little bit of decreased stuff coming off of injury, and he has looked very good with it, and the command has been significantly better as well, right around 2 walks per 9 innings last season, and he's backed up by one of the best bullpens in the big leagues. Now, that bullpen is a little bit more depleted, and I had to shade down this number just a tad for that, or else it would be probably north of minus 140 here with the Cleveland Guardians. I'd be willing to lay, because they did have to play 12 innings yesterday, but you still have a lot of guys that are used to going on back-to-back days, like Emmanuel Clase, Trevor Stephen, Nick Sandlin. All these guys were rock solid, and all these guys are used to just going out there time and time again. Meanwhile, for the New York Yankees, been able to get very good production out of Ron Marinaccio and Wandy Peralta. Marinaccio did get used up yesterday, but still, you've got a good bullpen. Alberto Abreu is able to give you a sub 3.3 ERA. Clay Holmes has been a little bit more of a roll of the dice, but he looked good in that series against the Baltimore Orioles. Colton Brewer is able to give you a little bit of length as well. And for the New York Yankees, you've got Aaron Judge, who's a very, very bad man. He's got 4 home runs, hitting at 364. He's right back to where he was last season. Gleyber Torres, pair of bombs. He's hitting north of 350. Giancarlo Stanton, it just is about at 225 last year. Trey Homer is hitting at 280. Looks much healthier this year. Anthony Rizzo didn't hit for a lot of average last year. He's starting to hit for average this year as well. Bottom of the Yankees lineup, I would say 7 through 9 has been a little bit of an issue, but by and large, still rock solid. And for the Guardians, second fewest home runs in the league last season, but they've got a lot of guys who are able to get on bases. Andres Gimenez, Amed Rosario, Steven Kwan, Jose Ramirez, all these guys hit at least a 270 last year, and all these guys are currently hitting, aside from really Rosario, above a 300 thus far this year. So they've been able to do a good job with that regard. They pick up Josh Bell, who's currently got 3 hits and 35 at-bats. He's had 95 plus RBI in his career. I did think that he's going to be able to pick it up a little bit. Someone like a Will Brandon, he's able to move the line as well, but you still don't have a lot of firepower with the Guardians, which is why I could only set them more around a minus 139 favorite rather than north of a minus 140, but still, seeing the minus 135, I'm going to be willing to dive in on the Guardians. Don't really want the run line just because the Guardians lineup can be a little bit hit or miss. I do think that the Yankees get a few runs up on the board, so my total is 7.8, looking at the over and looking at the Guardians on the money line. So 917, 918 on the betting board. The Baltimore Orioles playoffs to the Oakland A's as JP Sears is going for the A's, and Kyle Gibson is on the bump for Baltimore, and Baltimore in between minus 170 to minus 185 favorites, and with Oakland, it's anywhere between plus 155 and plus 168.5 is the total. Under is minus 115. The over is minus 105. Did set my total at an 8.2. I'm going to be looking at the under. This is more or less a fade of the Oakland A's offense because, man, they have not been able to get anything generated whatsoever. They did have 9 runs in that first game of their series against the Tampa Bay Rays, but I mean, outside of extra innings, it's been rather grody for them. They had that one big explosion against the Cleveland Guardians where they hung like 11, but that's a big giant anomaly. You've got Ramon Laureano, who's been able to move the line, hitting about a 250 for this team. He's the only guy that currently has north of 12 at-bats that has hit above a 222 this far this season, though. That's not great. And you've got him with a pair of homers. You've also got Ryan Yoda, who's been able to give you a pair of home runs, and that's about it. You did have Seth Brown be able to go off for 20-plus home runs last season. They pick up Mendes Diaz, but Diaz has done a whole lot of nothing. Jesus Aguilar, it's been okay at being able to move the line, but this is one of, if not the worst lineup in the big leagues. They need Shane Golaris to be able to step up for them. Meanwhile, Adley Rutschman, coming off of a big game yesterday against the Yankees, he was able to slug out a nice home run. He's currently hitting a 389. Cedric Mullins along with Gunnar Henderson, slow coming out of the box. They are both hitting below a 200 thus far this season, but I know that they're going to be able to pick it up at the Santander. 0 home runs and hitting a $194, but last year he had north of 30 home runs. Ryan Mountcastle 2 seasons ago, 30-plus home runs. He's been able to hit about a 245 with a pair of bombs, so I think that he's going to be in for a nice year. And this is an Orioles team that does a great job of stealing bases, even though Cedric Mullins is hitting just a $189. He still has 4 stolen bases. Jorge Mateo, he was one of the best base stealers in the league last year. He's already got 5 swipes this season. And for the Oakland A's, it's an okay bullpen. Sam Moll, Domingo Acevedo, Danny Jimenez, all these guys were able to supply a sub-3.5 ERA last season. Zach Jackson, he had a 3 ERA as well. So, I mean, these guys are okay. For the Baltimore Orioles, the bullpen has struggled early on this season. I do think that they're going to be able to pick it up. Not having Ode Lopez out there does hurt, but Felix Bautista, he's still one of the better closers in the big leagues. Keegan Aiken, I think, is going to regress along Cionel Perez, but you still have someone like a Danny Columbi who they pick up from the Minnesota Twins. I like him. And for Kyle Gibson, was he great with the Philadelphia Phillies last year? Heck no. He had north of a 5 ERA when he left the confines of Philadelphia. It was a 5.79 ERA, giving up on the road right around 1.4 home runs per 9 innings, but it feels like he's been able to even out a little bit with the walks. He gave out right around 2.6, 2.7 per 9 innings last season. And for JP Sears, you always just fear the fact that he doesn't get a lot of strikeouts, and that leading to a lot of hard contact. Last season, he did give up 8 home runs over the course of 70 innings between his time with the Yankees and the Oakland A's. Walks per 9 rate wasn't bad, right around 2.7 walks per 9 innings, but his strikeouts per 9 rate was hardly over 6. I do have a little bit of an issue there, and I do think that JP Sears is going to be giving up some nice pitches to drive to the Baltimore Orioles, and I do think that they're going to be taking advantage with the Orioles. I did set them more around a minus 182 on the money line, but if you take a look at the run line, you're getting anywhere between about a plus 110 to a plus 112. I was willing to lay a small price on the run line, so I'm going to bypass the money line, and I'm going to take the run line of the Baltimore Orioles, as I do think that this Oakland A's team gets held down. Semi-total at an 8.2, looking at the under and looking at the run line of Baltimore. 919, 920 on the betting board. It is the Boston Red Sox in the road face-off against the Tampa Bay Rays, as Jalen Beeks is going to be going for the Tampa Bay Rays. He is an opener for Josh Fleming, and Nick Pivetta is on the bump for Boston. 8 is the total. Over is anywhere between even and minus 120, and the same goes for the under, so choose shop accordingly there. And between minus 140, minus 150, the number on the Rays. Between plus 120 and plus 130, your number on Boston. Do note that if you took earlier on a Josh Fleming pitcher-dependent bet, probably want to refire in on Jalen Beeks, because Jalen Beeks is going to be the opener. You still are going to get Fleming as a bulk guy, but Beeks, he's probably going to go about 2 innings or so. We all know how this goes with the Tampa Bay Rays. They utilize this time and time again. I do think that could be able to help out Josh Fleming, because Fleming got completely lit up in his first start of the year against a poopy Washington Nationals. He gave up 5 runs over the course of 3 innings, and for Fleming, he's never really been able to put it together. If there is one guy right now to fade on the Tampa Bay Rays, it is Josh Fleming. Meanwhile, Jalen Beeks, he had a sub-3 ERA in the bullpen, and really everyone around Jalen Beeks is going to be able to pick up the slack, having someone come in to open for him. That does put a little bit less pressure on the Tampa Bay Rays to try to get a lot of length out of him, and I do think that it is very interesting to take a look at some of the splits of Fleming in terms of being a reliever as opposed to being a starter. Fleming has a career ERA of 6.05 as a starter. Meanwhile, 3.92 coming out of the bullpen, as his home runs per 9 rate is right around about 1 home run per 9 innings as a reliever. As a starter, it's more around 1.3 home runs per 9 innings. So I do think that there is some significance there. Meanwhile, you've got Nick Pivetta, who's been better on the road than he has been at home each of the last 2 seasons. Last year, 4.32 a road ERA, 4.80 home ERA, and against the Tampa Bay Rays, he did get shelled last season. He gave up 15 runs in 19 2/3 innings across 4 starts, giving up 3 home runs. That's not necessarily too terrific, but I do think that him being on the road is going to be very helpful. A lot of those starts did come in Boston. The Tampa Bay Rays, they have been a heat-seeking missile with regards to their offense. They have scored at least 6 runs in now each of their last 6 games. I do think that Pivetta is going to be able to provide more resistance, as those games you do want to note. They were against the Washington Nationals and the Oakland A's, and both of those teams stink, as Wander Franco and Randy Arozarena, both of these guys hitting north of the 350. I combined 6 home runs between the two of them. Jose Siri, Yandy Diaz, Isaac Paredes, they all have 2 home runs thus far this season, with Siri hitting above a 300. You've seen Manuel Margot be able to move the line. Brandon Lau, he's back from injury. He's looked solid. A pair of home runs, 464 on base. Harold Ramirez has 3 home runs. Luke Raley has 3 home runs. I think quite a bit of this is elevated due to the competition. Now, I will say for the Red Sox, their bullpen is not great. Guys like Caleb Ort, Zach Kelly, Richard Blyer, Ryan Brazier, they're not terrific, to say the least. They pick up Kenley Jansen, and we all know how big of a sweat that could be. But for the Red Sox, they've got Adam Duvall looking like the guy that we saw in Cincinnati many years ago. 4 home runs. He's hitting a 455 thus far. That's going to tail off. Alex Verdugo, Rafael Devers are both hitting north of a 333 now. Stop-heavy lineup. Kike Hernandez does have a pair of bombs, but he's hitting a $107 thus far this year. You've got Tristan Casas, who's hitting a $185. You've been able to get some production out of Justin Turner and Yasutaka Yoshida, but for the Red Sox, it is these main guys in the middle that are currently doing it all for the team, and I do think that that is a little bit of trepidation at, but I do think that they are going to be able to get to Josh Fleming in this spot, and I do think that the Rays are going to have a little bit of a tough time scoring now that they're facing off against, so I don't know, real competition, but somebody told it at 8.1. I think that Pivetta gives up some runs, no doubt about it. I think that Fleming is going to give up some as well. I do like the Tampa Bay Rays bullpen, which is why I still did set them as a minus 133 favorite, but with the Boston Red Sox currently seeing plus 130, there was an opener of a plus 135, and plus when we get more of these timelines, it should be shaking out to a plus 135, which would put me on Boston. So at a plus 134 or higher, going to be willing to take a shot on the Boston Red Sox, and here at an 8, looking at the over 921, 922 on the betting board, the Walker Texas Rangers, playoffs the Kansas City Royals, as Zach Greinke is going to be on the bump for the Royals, and Andrew Heaney is on the bump for the Texas Rangers. Rangers are in between minus 154 and minus 165 favorites, between plus 140 and plus 145. Your number on the Kansas City Royals, 8.5 to 9 is your total. On the 9, the under is minus 120, the over is even. On the 8.5, the over is minus 120, and the under is even. So my total is 7.8. I'm going to be looking at the under with the Kansas City Royals. It's been an almighty struggle for this team to score all season long. You do have Salvador Perez back, as 2 seasons ago he had 48 home runs, hitting at 273 last year. He was all sorts of banged up, but for the Royals, I mean, man, this team has been able to exceed the 4-run plateau just twice thus far this season. I think that they're going to have an almighty struggle in this one as well. Bobby Witt Jr., MJ Melendez, Hunter Dozier, Michael Massey, Kyle Isabel, Franmil Reyes, Jackie Bradley Jr., and we go down the list of guys currently hitting below $1.75. It has been just not great to say the least, so I do think that they're going to be ailing there. You do have a Royals bullpen, though, that has been able to do an okay job. Scott Barlow, Aroldis Chapman, I do trust in these guys. Someone like Jose Cuas is able to give you some okay innings. And Taylor Clark has turned himself into a relatively okay reliever for the Texas Rangers. Not an ideal bullpen, but Jonathan Hernandez, Brock Burke both had a sub-3 ERA along with Jose Leclerc, who has come off of injury and starting to look better and better by the day. And for the Texas Rangers, you need a little bit more out of Corey Seager, along with Marcus Semien, with Seager hitting at 273, but has got as many home runs as myself. Semien has went deep just once thus far this season, but you do have Adolis Garcia. He last year had 25 plus home runs. He was able to hit about a 250. I think that he's going to be able to get things online. Josh Young, he's already got a pair of homers. I like him as a young developing prospect, and I do think that they should be able to get to Zach Greinke, who had some of the most demonstrative home and road splits that he found in the league last year. .91 home ERA, 5.32 ERA on the road, giving up 13 home runs in 71 innings away from home, 1 home run in 66 innings when he was in Kansas City. He's not going to walk anyone. He had fewer than 2 walks per 9 innings last season, but hardly over 5 strikeouts per 9 innings as well. Meanwhile, Andrew Heaney, first start of the year, he got shelled. He got 8 outs, and he gave up 7 runs against the Baltimore Orioles. I do think that what we saw from him last season with the LA Dodgers was a bit of a mirage, as he had a 3.10 ERA, but he was still giving up rockets there as well. He was giving up right around 1.7 home runs per 9 innings. Doesn't give out a ton of walks. His strikeout numbers were amazing last year, right around 13 strikeouts per 9 innings. I don't think that that's necessarily sustainable, but I think that he's going to be able to get back online against a Kansas City Royals team that they just haven't been able to muster a lot of offense. I needed at least a plus 160 to take a shot on the Kansas City Royals, and taking a look at this Rangers run line, if you're laying a run and a half, getting a plus 120 to a plus 125, needed at least a plus 115 there. I'm going to reduce the juice. I do think that the Rangers get to Zach Greinke. I'm going to be taking a look at them on the run line, and I flat out just don't think that the Royals are going to do their part with this total. Semi-total at a 7.8, so you're in an 8.5 to a 9, looking at the under and taking the Rangers on the run line, 923, 924 on the betting board. The Houston Astros, they third face-off against the Pittsburgh Pirates, as Ronci Contreras is going to be going for the Buccos, and Framber Valdez is on the one for Houston. 7.5 to 8 is your total on 7.5 overs minus 120. The unders even on the 8. The unders minus 120, and the overs even with the Astros. They are minus 175 and minus 180 favorites. Between plus 155 and plus 165 is your number on the Buccos. Need at least a plus 176 to take a shot on the Buccos. Now, the big question is the run line, and right now we're finding that run line of the Astros at a minus 110. I was willing to go up to a minus 120, so I'm going to be looking at that Astros run line, reducing the juice, laying a run and a half. For Framber Valdez, he was a very good road pitcher last year. As a matter of fact, he had a 3.54 home ERA compared to a 2.27 road ERA. Among his 17 wins last season, 10 of them did come on the road. On the road, he gave up right around 0.6 home runs per 9 innings. Opponents hit a 209 off of him. His walks per 9 rate last year overall, it was a little bit north of 3. And for Ronci Contreras, I like the stuff that this young kid has. First start of the year, gives up 1 run in 5 2/3 innings in a winning effort against the Boston Red Sox. And you take a look at what he was able to do last year. He was a little bit banged up, but he was able to do a good job of holding his own at the big league level. Gave up about 1.25 home runs per 9 innings. A little bit of a wild thing with about 3.7 walks per 9 innings, but he is still, I believe, 22 to 23 years old. He's going to continue to develop, but even with having Jose Altuve at the fold, this is still a pretty fearsome Astros lineup, as you got Yordan Alvarez and Kyle Tucker, who both have been able to supply 3 home runs apiece. Both of these guys north of a 380 on base. Jeremy Pena and Alex Bregman slow coming out of the gates. Both of these guys hitting below a 210, but Pena was able to get a home run in that series against the Twins. I do think that he's going to be able to pick it up. Chas McCormick, he's already got a pair of home runs thus far this season. Mauricio Dubon has actually been able to move the line. You know that the catcher spot is always a little bit of a dead bat spot for the Astros. I do think that their bullpen is going to hit a little bit more of a rut this year after they were number 1 in the league in terms of bullpen ERA last season, but still a good bullpen. As Rafael Montero, Ryan Presley, Hector Neris, Brian Abreu, all these guys, they had a sub-3.3 ERA last season along Seth Martinez. Martinez and Stanek are starting to see some of that regression, but all in all, I still like them a lot more than this Pittsburgh Pirates bullpen. As for the Pirates, you've got Chase DeYoung along with David Bednar. They were able to give you a sub-3.3 ERA last year. And Colin Holderman has had his moments of brilliance. He's had his moments of not-so-greatness. Rob Zanarski, Dodi Maretta, Dwayne Underwood Jr., these are not necessarily trustworthy guys. And for the Pittsburgh Pirates, Brian Reynolds, 5 home runs this year. But you have Oniel Cruz go down with an injury. He was a very boom or bust sort of guy in my opinion, but I mean, having that boom or bust potential is a whole heck of a lot better than having some of these other guys out there. Connor Joe, in limited at bats, you should be seeing more of them. He has looked rock solid after I liked what I saw from him with the Colorado Rockies. G-Man Choi, though, 1 for 19 to begin the season. It's been a little bit rough for him. I do think that it's going to be interesting to see what you get out of Ji-Wan Bae, who comes over, and he's been able to move the line thus far this season. Brian Hayes, though, it's been a rough start for him, and Carlos Santana just never really hits for average. I do think that Valdez is going to be able to shut these guys down, and I do think that Ronci Contreras is able to give a good start as well. Semi-total at 7.3, so you're between a 7.5 to an 8 looking at the under, but I do think that the Astros dominate. I do think that the bullpen of the Astros is going to be able to hold down the fort against this Pirates lineup, so going to be one. Take the Astros on the run line, we'll lay up to a -120 with that, and the under 925, 926 on the betting board. The Seattle Mariners set the road face-off against the Chicago Cubs as Drew Smiley goes for the Cubs, and Luis Castillo is on the bump for Seattle. Total is 8, over and under anywhere between -105, -115, between -134 and -145 your number on Seattle, between +120 and +130 is your number on the Cubs. I set my total at a 9.1. I'm looking at the over. Wind is going to be blowing out on this day, and it's going to be blowing out at right around about 8 or so miles per hour. Very similar conditions to what we got on Sunday. I've been very surprised that even when the wind is blowing out, these Cubs totals have been very low. So I'm more than happy to take that, especially with having Mr. Smiley out there, which he was Mr. Frowny when it came to his first start of the season against the Cincinnati Reds, as he allowed 7 runs, 6 of which were earned in 4 2/3 innings. Just really not a great pitcher. He's been able to do a good job of being able to keep the walks down last year. Had right around 2.3 walks per 9 innings, but was still giving up about 1.4 home runs per 9 innings. Did have a 242 home ERA, but he was very fortunate getting a lot of days where the wind was blowing in. Meanwhile, for Luis Castillo, ever since coming over to the Seattle Mariners regular season and postseason, he's got a sub-280 ERA. Lots of familiarity with the Cubs, as he was with the Cincinnati Reds at this time last season, but has really been able to rein it in with the walks as well. And he's backed up by one of the best bullpens out there in the big leagues. Matt Brash, since he's went to the bullpen, has looked good. Paul Sewald, along with Penn Murphy, you've been able to get good innings out of both of these guys. They have been dealing with a few ailments of the bullpen. Diego Castillo is not so great, and JB Bukakis is someone that they're going to be needing to look to. And for the Chicago Cubs, they have been able to elevate their bullpen a little bit as well. They pick up Michael Fulmer, they pick up Brad Boxberger. Both of these guys should be able to play a functional role for their bullpen, but when you get into guys like Michael Rucker and company, that could be a little bit more of a roll of the dice. So I do like what they were able to do with this lineup. They pick up Cody Bellinger, who I'm still not necessarily convinced is ever going to be able to get back to his MVP form. It's been a rough go of it to begin the season there, but you've had Dansby Swanson do a good job with a 459 on base. As many home runs as myself, Patrick Wisdom has really been the main matcher for the team. 3 out of the team's 6 home runs, but I do think that Trey Boom Mancini is going to be able to provide some power. He's sitting at 260. Nico Horner, Nick Madrigal, these guys do a good job of being a reach base as well. But I do think that for the Seattle Mariners, picking up Teoscar Hernandez, who had 57 home runs, a 279 average the last 2 seasons with the Toronto Blue Jays, is terrific. Colton Wong had a 249 average or greater each out of the last 6 seasons. Now with the Seattle Mariners, they had a 230 batting average overall last season. That was 3rd worst in the big leagues. I do think that it's going to be a little bit better. You've got Ty France, who does a good job of moving the line. He provides a little bit of power. And Eugenio Suarez, along with Julio Rodriguez, I fully expect to hit 30-plus home runs this season. And Suarez seems to be doing a better job of being able to move the line as well. I do think that the Mariners are going to be able to get to Smiley and that bullpen, especially with the wind blowing out. I think that Castillo is going to give up a few runs to a Cubs lineup that I think that they're going to be able to feast with the wind blowing out. But that said, I did set the Mariners as a -134 favorite. We're currently at circa the -134 that I'm seeing is the max I'm willing to lay. I'm seeing a 130 out there as well. I'd be willing to lay that number in here at an 8. Taking a look at the over, we wrap things up with 927, 928 on the betting board. It is the Washington Nationals, and the road face-off against the LA Angels. As Jose Suarez is going to be going for the Angels. Patrick Corbin is on the bump for the Nationals. 9.5 is your total. Over and under, both at -110, and between -203 and -215 your number on the Angels. Between +183 and +190 is your number on the Washington Nationals. If you're looking at the run line of the Angels, you're going to be laying anywhere between -105, -110, and I was willing to lay up to a -110 on that run line. Don't want to be laying anything more than that -110, but I'm going to be willing to ride with it, as you've got the turkey tosser himself in Patrick Corbin, who's on the mound, and he is picking up right where he left off a season ago. It has been all sorts of atrocious for him, as he has, in 9 innings across 2 starts this year, been able to log an 80 ERA, 9 runs in total, 8 of which have been earned. Meanwhile, for Jose Suarez, not necessarily the world's greatest start to the season for him. giving up 7 runs, 6 of which were earned against Seattle, but I do think that he's going to rebound against a Washington team that they've got the unenviable task of having to rebound from being from elevation with the Colorado Rockies the last few days. They were able to put quite a few runs up on the board, but when you go to Coors Field, you know what? That's going to heighten your scoring. Now, when it comes to Jose Suarez, he was actually better on the road than he was at home last season, supplying an ERA of a 4.14 when he was at home compared to a 3.75 when he was on the road, and big reason why is that he was giving up just a tad over a home run per 9 innings when he was on the road at home. This went up to more like 1.3 home runs per 9 innings, but I will say this about Jose Suarez as well. Much of the struggles that he had were towards the beginning part of the season, and we really noticed this with the entirety of the LA Angels. You notice that the bullpen was a little bit better towards the second half of the season than it was during the first half of the season, but not really too bullish on this bullpen this season. Andrew Wentz is someone that just is not necessarily trustworthy in the bullpen. Ryan Tepera, Aaron Loop, these are guys that are very long in the tooth. I actually do like Jimmy Harrigan, even though he did give up that home run against the Toronto Blue Jays over the weekend. By and large, he's been able to do a relatively solid job of being able to hold down the fort, but you do take a look at Suarez, getting back to him, final 11 starts of the season. He was able to give the team a 2.81 ERA in those last 11 starts, giving up 5 home runs in 64 innings, and the team did go 7-4 in those starts, so he should be able to help mitigate some of that bad bullpen moving forward. Carlos Estevez as well, not necessarily the world's greatest addition, and for the Washington Nationals, they had to use up a lot of bullpen pieces as well, with them playing at elevation. The Angels, they had to go to extra innings against the Blue Jays yesterday, so both of these bullpens are quite taxed. Erasmo Ramirez is someone that was very solid last year. He's been a little bit shaky this year, though. They did get a sub-3.5 ERA out of Mason Thompson, Carl Edwards Jr. last season. I do think that he's going to be able to do an okay job this season. Kyle Finnegan has gotten off to a relatively rough start, but I actually do think that you're going to be able to get some good innings out of Hunter Harvey under the radar. He had a 2.52 ERA last year and a 1.93 ERA in 19 appearances on the road a season ago, but for the Nationals, he just don't have a lot of power with his lineup, as Jameer Candelario is someone that they picked up in the offseason, and he's the only guy that's been able to give them multiple home runs this season, and he's hitting a $195 now. Lane Thomas is hitting north of 350, and he was functional for the team last season. Victor Robles, coming into his own, is never going to be a power guy, but is solid at being able to get on base. He should be a little bit more of a base stealer moving forward for them, as the Nationals have just 2 stolen bases this year, but guys like Alex Call, CJ Abrams, and company, it's going to be a while before they really blossom at the MLB level. Meanwhile, you've got Mike Trout and Shohei Ohtani, who both have 3 home runs apiece. Both of these guys hitting north of 300. They've been terrific to begin the season. Hunter Renfroe, Taylor Ward, both of these guys have a pair of home runs. Renfroe hit about a 250 last year with the Brewers, on pace for that this year with the Angels, and Taylor Ward hit north of a 270 last year with 20-plus home runs. Had a rough go of it the second half of the season, but first half of the year he was absolutely dynamic, and he's back to that. And then the catcher that they traded for, I believe in that Syndergaard deal in Logan O'Hoppe, he has been very good with a trio of home runs. They've got some nice upside there, and I do think that they're going to get to the old turkey tosser himself and Patrick Corbin, who just has been so bad. 19 losses last season. He's terrible at home. He's terrible on the road. You'd stick him on Planet Pluto. He'd be terrible there last year. He had a 7.75 road ERA, and I do think that the LA Angels are going to be able to scratch across their fair share of runs on him. The only question is whether or not the Washington Nationals are going to be able to hold up their end of the bargain for the total. I think that the answer is no. I did set my total at an 8.4. I'm going to be looking at the unders. I do think that Jose Suarez does a solid job against the Washington Nationals. Nighttime game out there in LA. Ball's going to be traveling a little bit less, but looking to lay the run line here of the LA Angels, willing to go a little bit north of -110 here, and taking a look at the 9.5 under, and that will wrap things up for the Monday edition of the Baseball Betting Show, now part of the VSiN family of podcasts. A big thanks to Jon Jansen of Fox Sports Philadelphia, the Gambler, for joining me in line segment. If you do like what you're hearing from this fine podcast, the Baseball Betting Show, you're able to subscribe wherever you get your podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Spotify, Stitcher, and TuneIn. If you have a question, comment, segment idea, what have you for this podcast, you do have one of 2 ways we offer those in. First one is my Twitter timeline at @JNet_41. Keep in mind, letters CM, name does not matter. As per usual, please do send these into the timeline. Other ways, find an Apple Podcast review. If you rate this podcast 5 stars, it is very much appreciated. From there, you're able to fire in whatever you'd like here on this podcast. I have that 5-star review coming at you guys every single day throughout the baseball season. That means I'm coming at you once again tomorrow. Thank you so much for tuning in.